everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Gentoo, your source for all things gaming and tech related. I'm Aaron James.
And I'm Wesley Bertha. Let's get right to this week's up-and-coming releases. You can see these games and many more released throughout the month on your favorite platforms.
There's only a fraction of the number of titles we've had in recent weeks this week. You could say they've done some division. And speaking of division, The Division 2 for the PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4 on March 15th. After The Division 1 took you to New York, in The Division 2 you head to the capital, Washington, D.C. to try and stop several different factions from taking over the city.
The Division 2's Washington, D.C. is a one-in-one representation of the real city, making the game world more authentic than ever. The game's map offers up close and personal views of landmarks, natural landscapes, neighborhoods, and enemy hideouts.
One Piece World Seeker, PC, Xbox One, PlayStation 4 on March 15th. Set sail on an all-new One Piece adventure in One Piece World Seeker. Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates are back in a new story that puts players into Luffy's point of view as he battles and explores an expansive and seamless world. Open landscapes provide many paths for players to experience Luffy's gum-gum abilities and swing into action.
The Caligula Effect, Overdose, on PC, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch. In this game, a virtual doll gains self-awareness and creates a world called Mobius, where people who listen to her songs and relate are trapped in a virtual paradise where they live a never-ending high school life. This game sounds good for those who like the idea of Japanese high school, I guess.
These games and many more will be releasing throughout the month, so be sure to be on the lookout for them.
Up next, check out Aaron's Analysis with Aaron.
Hello, and welcome back to Aaron's Analysis, where I talk about games that left an impression on me, whether good or bad. This week, we're going to be taking a look at The Order 1886, a PlayStation exclusive that could be the biggest misfire on an otherwise stellar record of exclusive games this console generation. The game world is fantastic. I don't want to spoil anything here, but it's basically a mashup of steampunk, Arthurian legend, monsters, and just a pinch of actual late 19th century history thrown in the mix. Don't worry, you'll learn all about it within the first 2 chapters, and it only gets better from there. Definitely one of the more unique game worlds that I've experienced. Complementing the world, the art style is extremely well done. They nailed the steampunk elements without going overboard, and their take on what a more modern day knight might look like really worked for me. Graphics and animations are just about perfect. It's a downright gorgeous game in a dark steampunk London kind of way. I noticed several different, extremely subtle and well done facial animations that most games have a hard time pulling off. Backing up solid animations, the voice acting was quite good. Between this and the above, the cutscenes were a joy to watch, even if there were probably too many of them with the little amount of gameplay that the game does have. The cast did an excellent job all around though. It has interesting and unique weapons and gadgets to play with that help build the steampunk vibe, and they're quite fun and satisfying to use. I never once got bored with the weapons, and even enjoyed the less sciencey weapons that some players might not like as much. Now for the less pleasurable stuff, the game's runtime is quite short. The general consensus of 5 to 8 hours matched my own experience. This is a big part of why I was upset with my initial purchase of the game. The controls are pretty clunky. I recommend upping the analog stick sensitivity for looking to the max. The game has a separate option for sensitivity while aiming, so upping the looking sensitivity won't impact your shooting, unless you want it to. I found myself wanting more world interactivity as well. There's very few objects that you can interact with. While the limited number of things you can pick up are relatively interesting, there needed to be many more of them. An example, very early in the game you're unarmed and pick up a gun only to discover it's out of ammo. Right next to you is a hammer and other assorted tools. Why couldn't I use the hammer or something else as an improvised melee weapon? There were way too many QuickTime events for my taste. They weren't particularly difficult, but they were pretty annoying. Unfortunately, this game was developed at the tail end of the QuickTime events being flavor of the month, and it's clear they decided to ride past that trend's expiration date. It's a regrettable decision, and probably the thing that will annoy other players the most. There's so much walking as well. It's probably an intentional decision to limit load screens, kind of like Mass Effect with the elevator. But the price for fewer loading screens is that you're forced to walk at a pretty slow pace while the game loads in the background at certain moments, and you can really only sprint during combat. In non-combat scenarios, you stroll at roughly the pace one might when you're shopping at an antique mall, and the sprint button in those sections gives only a minimal increase, if any at all. What I haven't mentioned is the story, and that's because I have mixed feelings. On one hand, I was engaged the whole way through and really wanted to find out what would happen next. At the same time, it was definitely really predictable. But the worst part was the ending. It felt super unfinished, and they clearly had more to accomplish with the story. The developers even said that it was never written to be a standalone game, and I think that kind of shows. Unfortunately, I suspect the disappointing reception of the first game will keep Sony from ever greenlighting a second, so we're gonna left with something that feels like a season 1 of a promising series that gets cancelled. This game was in some ways a better movie than a game, and at $60 I found that its negatives outweighed its pluses, whereas whatever price it runs for now, I probably would have been at least pleasantly surprised. If the game could get a sequel from the developers that could continue building on the world and improving upon the gameplay, it could be a real contender, but until then, we're stuck with a mediocre game. Thanks for watching Aaron's Analysis. Next up, we've got Trevor, and I'm still not sure what Trevor does.
What's up, gamers? My name is Trevor. Welcome back to another episode of This Week In, that segment of Gentoo where I talk about gaming news and releases, patches, industry news, and more. This week I'm talking about Firestorm, EA and DICE's take on the ever-so-popular Battle Royale genre set within the Battlefield franchise. Until now, there haven't really been any details on the game mode other than it's coming sometime this month, but thanks to Reddit user Temporial, we now have new information and details regarding the mode. Keep in mind, these are just leaks from data miners, so nothing is official. The mode is expected to have solos, duos, and squads with a maximum number of 64 players per match. The Reddit user stated that the code shows signs of an LFG or looking for group system, which points towards a matchmaking system. The map is set in Norway, which is already basically confirmed from the trailers DICE has released in the past. Like most battle royales, players will enter a down state upon taking enough damage, where they will then be able to crawl but also use a sidearm. The sidearm part is coming from another leaked tutorial video on the game mode. The video seems pretty legit, seeing as the game already has many like it and it follows the same format along with using the same narrator. You will also have an inventory for loot storage. The inventory can be increased with different tiers of backpacks, similar to that of Apex Legends. The map will feature safes that can be opened, which will apparently be tracked as well. I'm assuming these safes will yield higher tier loot. It's also stated that there is some kind of blueprint discovery system possibly associated with these crates. The map will also feature dynamic objectives that players can capture. This seems like a way to incentivize players to traverse towards hotspots, where I'm sure the action will be most intense. Additionally, these may be associated with vehicle breakouts, which could be how players get to use the vehicles. Weapons will be categorized into 4 tiers and have specializations like being able to use a bipod or faster aim down sight time. For healing, players will get bandages and medic bags, which will most likely take some time to apply. There are 3 named tiers of armor vests, as well as a special kind of armor plate that does not have tiers, so maybe this is the be-all for damage mitigation. For vehicles, in addition to transports like the tractor that was teased, it seems players will be able to operate tanks. The tanks found so far are the German Tiger and the British Valentine. Vehicles will be balanced by using fuel as a resource. And yes, it looks like there is a helicopter, or at least a prototype version, supposedly looked into near the end of the war. It also seems as though reinforcements can be called in. These work similar to Call of Duty score streaks in multiplayer, but we can't be sure how they will function in Firestorm. Apparently the V1 rocket is included, so I have no clue how they are going to balance that. My thoughts on this information? I mean, it all seems relevant and appropriate to the Battle Royale style of gameplay. Most of this is speculative, and I'm sure much of it will change or be different than what we may initially think. But if it's anything like the rest of the game, we can be sure to expect an underdelivered, half-baked, buggy mess of disappointment. I am looking forward to playing Firestorm. It's just hard to get excited when much of this game has been implemented so poorly. Much of the content seems rushed, mismanaged, and not fully thought out. But anyway, that does it for this weekend here on Gentoo. My name is Trevor. For more gaming content, keep it right here on KNWT, Channel 8.
Welcome to another edition of Game Breakers. I'm your host, Wesley, and this week we're going to be playing NBA 2K19 once again, but we're going to be playing my career on NBA 2K19. So this time we're going to go over all the game modes that it has to offer. It has a regular season, has like the playoffs, so you just play a normal NBA career. It also has a Pro-Am, where you play 5-on-5, and there's also Park. We're going to jump into the details of all the game modes, but without further ado, let's get into it. So this year in my career, like every year really, you start off in the creation suite, and I've always really liked this. It gives me a little creativity to, see what I want to do name-wise, or if I want to make a character, or if I just want to make myself. So that's what I did. I usually make myself. This is I've already have like 2 or 3 different characters, but I just remade one for the purpose of this video, and it's really cool what they could do. I made a shooting guard, 6'6", and what you notice is there's like a lot of weird things you can apply to it, like the weight and wingspan, but the thing that's always bothered me is the wingspan somehow affects your shot. The shorter your arm is, the better shooter you are. That never really made any sense to me, but so the game works. So once you're done with that, you have the option to go into the prelude or not do the prelude. What you're seeing right now is me talking about my contract, and it's pretty cool, but I'm going to show you guys some prelude gameplay. And I will spare you the boring details of the game, but basically you are a player who's striving to get to the league. You play in the G League, and you also play in China, overseas, and you work your way to the NBA. And it has its high points, but the cutscenes aren't really one of them. The gameplay is really where you have your fun. And yeah, so what you're seeing right now is me playing in like a G League game, which is the developmental league for the NBA. So basically, it's like a AAA or whatever for baseball, and it's like you play against talent that isn't quite NBA ready, but you're playing against NBA caliber talent, and it's pretty fun. You have the ability to basically score at any point that you want because you're like at a much higher level than everybody else. Plus, you're a player too. Plus, I'm pretty good at the game, so I have it pretty easy. But no, the game is really fun when you're playing like this. So once you get to the league, it's a little more difficult. Obviously, you're playing against better basketball players, but it's a little more fun too because you have the ability to play with better basketball players, and it's pretty fun what you can do from there. You can win Rookie of the Year, all the normal accolades that any other NBA player you can get. You can do all-star competitions. You can do everything. And it's pretty fun, but you run into teams like the Bulls that aren't very good, but somehow every time I play them, they give me problems. And up next is Pro, and this is probably the most satisfying game mode in my career. It's just really fun teaming up with friends and taking on other people. It's really cool. And lastly, it's My Park. This is probably my least favorite game mode. It's nothing but people who abuse the game, and the community is pretty trash, honestly. But be sure to tune in next week on Game Breakers. We'll be playing the story mode in UFC 3.
Hey guys, what is going on, and welcome back to another episode of Monkey Plays. This week I'll be reviewing Red Dead Redemption 2's Gun Rush. Red Dead Redemption was released for PS4 and Xbox One in 2018. Gun Rush is a recently added game mode in their online portion of the game. Gun Rush features a solo or squad option consisting of 32 players, as you are spawned into a location on the map where you rush to the inner circle to find weapons and horses. Last man standing wins. At first glance, when I heard that Red Dead had a battle royale type of game mode within online, I was super excited because I love playing Red Dead, as it is super fun to ride around on your horse doing whatever you want. This game was starting to get stale for me as I didn't find many interest in the game modes that were previously been released for online. Hearing about a battle royale for online got me really interested, and here's what I thought of it. Here's what I didn't like. Movement. I can't be upset at this because this is Rockstar's own movement and it's just very awkward, just like Grand Theft Auto's. It's super sticky to me and doesn't feel like I have enough control over my character, which is fine, I just don't personally like it. I was never good with movement in Grand Theft Auto, and same applies to Red Dead. I'm just too awkward when I move my character. I had trouble getting into gunfights and staying alive for a long time. Because my lack of experience with movement and dodges you can perform to evade enemies was very low, I died a lot, and frequently. I quickly realized that if you don't have these movements and dodges memorized, then you are going to be at a severe disadvantage, and most likely die quickly unless you have a gun. The first 3 games I played, I died instantly off spawn, and it really showed that people were just more experienced with movement than I am. I wouldn't say this is a bad aspect of the game, but it was very frustrating. Here's what I liked. There's a few things I enjoyed about this game, but I'm not saying the game is horrible. You just had to be familiar with different movements, as well as all games should be. One of the few things I enjoyed about this game was easily riding around on my horse and shooting people. Sorry. As this was one of the few things I got really good at while playing the story, and I used it to my advantage. While there were a few games I actually got to live past being spawn killed, I definitely enjoyed being able to get a gun and finally getting into a fight with somebody. Shooting mechanics in this game are quite good, and I enjoyed that as well. So this can be said about both the game and the Battle Royale. While Gun Rush is in its own separate mode that has different updates than the base game, I really enjoy horse riding. It's very smooth and interactive. The horse perfectly responds to your movements and can turn and stop on a dime. One of the few aspects I found really interesting was how you have to maintain your horse's health and stamina. I thought this feature was really cool because it isn't like GTA where you can wreck your car as many times as you want and put it in your garage to get brand new. It's a living and breathing character within the game. The Red Dead Redemption's Battle Royale isn't bad at all. You just have to be familiar with the movements that are in the game, and it can be quite easy. I enjoyed the mode a lot when I finally didn't die instantly and I was able to find some guns and a horse. Riding around on my horse shooting enemies with my shotgun was easily my favorite part, as it brought back memories when I played the story. I'll give this game a 5 bananas out of 10, and I only say this because it takes skill to actually be good at the game. Again, this isn't a bad aspect of the game, I was just personally frustrated by it. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Cody with Monkey Plays.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another action-packed episode of Project Delta. I'm Dalton Spees and this week with me I have
Royale.
And here we are playing it's not really brand new, but it's pretty decently new. We're playing Jump Force. It's every anime lover's dream, you know. It's got just about any really popular anime character you could want to have in a game. And so Maywall is my resident anime/fighting game expert. So I thought I'd bring him on and talk some anime, you know, once in a while. Nerd Central can't be the only ones who talk about it, so here we are. And Maywall, I want to know, how far have you gotten into the story of this game, and what do you think about it so far?
I've played only a little bit so far, but it's pretty alright. It's pretty much about assembling your little team of anime characters, and a lot of them have kind of been like mind controlled, and so you pretty much free them and you add them to your team, and pretty much fight the bad guys that keep brainwashing all of them.
Well, that's probably a good idea to make them get unbrainwashed. You know, I could imagine that. Oh, did you see? Oh, I just popped out my homeboy Yu-Gi-Oh. So I want to know. Obviously, with such a huge roster, I want to know what are some of your favorite characters to play as in the game?
This guy right here, Sanji. He's one of my favorites.
Sanji, the boy, that homie from One Piece.
Yep.
And so obviously, you know, all these characters, they have different stories and they're from different shows. So what are some of your favorite shows that are represented in this game?
Hunter x Hunter is pretty cool. Rurouni Kenshin, One Piece, of course.
Kenshin's definitely one of my favorite ones that's on here. I think it might be a little bit obscure. It's about a samurai who lives in an era where samurais aren't the norm anymore. So he just kind of is there, but his whole thing is he doesn't kill anybody, so that's really neat. He's like the Batman of samurai. So that's pretty neat. I want to ask you, so obviously there's been a lot of talk about the cutscenes in this game and how terrible they look, and I want to know, what do you think about them?
I feel like it's worse for more characters. The overall problem is teeth. Everyone's teeth look atrocious.
Yeah, like they need to hit the dentist.
It's not even that. They look all right. It's they look bigger than their mouths.
Dude, that's like that's something you wouldn't expect to be a problem. I mean, like, anime, that's usually like the eyes are huge, but I mean...
That's a problem too. Like with Kurapika and a couple other characters, the eyes are outrageous, like bigger than the head, pretty much.
Yeah, but that almost kind of makes sense, because, you know, like, his whole thing is he's got the red eyes. That could be like, imagine like if Sasuke's eyes are super huge, because like half of his thing is he's got cool eyes too. So, you know, I could see that being a thing. But yeah, the cutscenes in this game, I think they're pretty ugly. But the gameplay, like I haven't even seen a whole lot of gameplay from this game, just because that's all people talk about is the cutscenes. So what do you think about how it plays?
I would say balancing's kind of bad in this game. There's a couple characters that are just a lot better than everyone else. Like,
yeah.
Like this guy Seiya, he's probably like top 5, sadly. I'm sorry.
Top 5. Oh, so you decided that you had to bring out one of the top 5 guys in the game to beat me.
Oh yeah,
the noob.
Yeah, you're that good.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and hit a rematch again, so we can get right back into the action, of course. And by action, I mean Maywall just absolutely whooping up on me.
That's the plan.
So you mentioned that you have Sanji and you have Seiya, and I'm not sure that I know the third person in your team, but like tell me a little bit about them and like what their powers are.
Sanji, he's your friendly neighborhood pirate chef.
All pirates need a good chef, so they don't get, you know, the scurvy and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's world-class chef. He promised to only use his hands for cooking, so he pretty much only kicks, as you'll probably see in this.
Oh. And so then, what's the story behind Seiya? We see him here in this sweet little armor gear.
So he's pretty much a 13-year-old boy who got recruited by a Greek god to be one of her manservants.
Oh man, that sounds like quite the time. As we see this little intro, you see my team of Kenshin Imura. I had Kakashi from Naruto, one of everybody's favorites, and then Yugi Moto from Yu-Gi-Oh! Because who doesn't love a good card game with some good monsters, and who doesn't love my main man Joey Wheeler? He's obviously the most charismatic man in all of anime.
What just happened?
Oh, here, maybe I'll try using a special for once. Oh no, you'll hit me with the special, and mine will get canceled. Oh my. Oh, hold up. Maybe I actually did something for once.
Oh, you did.
So is there anybody that made this roster that you were kind of surprised that they made it in?
I would say I was surprised with the number of Bleach characters in this game.
Yeah, is there kind of just a ridiculously high number?
It's not as bad. The main problem is really in One Piece, Naruto, and Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, but they're the most popular, so they gotta do a little bit of fan service on that.
Everyone else, I would say, it's fair, but probably need a little more diversity in the roster.
Yeah. And I'm sure that there's plenty of characters that they could pull just from out of anywhere for DLC and whatnot. But is there anybody that you think would have been really cool to have in this game that you're disappointed that didn't make the cut?
I would say my main man Gentoo from Gintama. He's been pretty cool. Who did I want to see? Oh, I wanted to see freaking Gohan for Dragon Ball Z. They put everyone in from Dragon Ball Z for Gohan.
But which iteration of Gohan? There's so many iconic Gohans. I mean, you got Great Saiyaman. You have Teen Gohan when he fights Cell. There's a lot of good choices to make for the Gohan train.
I would say it seemed like they like going for the most modern versions of all these characters.
So the Dragon Ball Super Edition, I'm sure.
Yeah, like Goku and Vegeta, you can actually go like Super Saiyan Blue with them. So.
Oh my, that sounds very exciting. I need to figure out how to use these other cards here with Yugi. I'm just kind of dark magicianing you, and it's not going very well for
If
me.
you use Draw, you can it uses like a random card from his deck. It's one of your specials.
Oh, can I get Pot of Greed?
It's like usually Swords of Revealing Light. Use it again, you'll shoot the arrows, I think.
Oh, now that is interesting.
Spell Shattering Arrow, and I don't know what the other one is. I think
So, a couple that come into my mind when I think of characters I would have liked to see, Saitama from One Punch Man. I think he would have been a great choice, but I feel like he's not part of where all these characters have come from, like, from Shonen Jump. And then my personal favorite characters of all time is Vash the Stampede from Trigun. He's probably one of the coolest guys that I've ever seen. Of course, he's just so good with that revolver. And last but not least, I want to ask, if you could have all the powers from one character in Jump Force, which character would it be and why?
Oh, definitely Yugi. It's all about the heart of the cards.
It's all about the heart of the cards. Well, speaking of heart of the cards, you just totally destroyed all of Yugi's life points, and I don't think there's any chance that he's going to be coming back from this one. So yeah, of course, we'll hit this rematch just to finish playing out the video, and I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to this amazing episode of Project Delta, where we played some fantastic Jump Force battles. For Project Delta and Gentoo, I was Dalton Spees, and this was
AWOL Masa.
Thanks for watching.
See ya.